7, we have a go for main engine start. 5, 3, 2, 1. We have booster ignition and liftoff of Space Shuttle Columbia.
On January 16, 2003, the Space Shuttle Columbia took off on a scientific mission with 7 astronauts on board.
From WFAA-TV, Channel 8, The Spirit of Texas.
16 days later, WFAA captured live footage of it over Texas as it was returning.
And there it goes.
No one expected anything other than a normal re-entry.
The bright light you see, obviously some of the heat-resistant material lighting up on the shuttle.
The shuttle was 16 minutes away from landing in Florida. It never made it. Instead, what our cameras captured was the shuttle exploding.
It looked like a normal re-entry because the shuttle would normally light up in re-entry because of the heat of the friction of the Earth's atmosphere. But then we began to see this.
You'll notice here, it looks like you can see pieces of the shuttle coming off.
This is video from C-SPAN inside Houston's Mission Control when they realized something had gone wrong.
FYI, I've just lost 4 separate temperature transducers on the left side of the vehicle.
In other words, the heat sensors were going off. Joe Gutheinz is a former NASA investigator with knowledge of the Columbia investigation.
First indication that there was a problem was when the temperature transducers that were now operating at 100% indicated that there was, in fact, overheating occurring.
Back inside Mission Control, they repeatedly tried to reach the astronauts.
Columbia, Houston, UHF comm check.
According to NASA, the last transmission from Colonel Rick Husbands was minutes before. His final words, Roger, and then silence.
It's believed that there were 60 to 90 seconds that existed where the astronauts would have been aware that there was something going wrong.
GC flight. Flight GC, lock the doors.
NASA declared a state of emergency and sent search and rescue crews to East Texas when parts of the shuttle began raining down. Pieces fell over 2,000 square miles. Matt Orwig was the U.S. Attorney over the Eastern District of Texas and helped lead the investigation. He says it was considered the largest crime and recovery scene in U.S. history.
It was the largest and just complex. 84,000 pieces were recovered, pieced together then to solve the mystery of what caused the explosion.
Initially, there was concern the explosion was intentional because there was an Israeli astronaut on board, and authorities feared he might be a target, so they increased security for the landing.
We weren't that far removed from 9/11, and so there was consideration that it could have been a terrorist attack of some kind.
NASA raced to recover as much of the shuttle as possible to determine the cause, so thousands of law enforcement officers and soldiers were called in to help recover the parts. While most people turned over what was found, a few residents wanted to keep it. That was considered a crime.
People naturally thought that they should be able to keep that or wanted to keep it, and we just stressed the importance.
A few people were prosecuted for not turning over pieces of the shuttle, but eventually nearly 40% of it was recovered, including the left wing. WFAA was there when a rancher found it. The left wing was critical to the investigation because NASA eventually determined the heat tiles on the wing were damaged on takeoff.
The left wing is what actually got hit by a piece of the foam from the main tank. The piece that hit the orbiter was about a little less than 2 pounds in weight. So anything dealing with that left wing, that was 0.0 in the investigation.
Gutheinz says NASA knew a piece of the foam had struck the left wing on takeoff, but determined it wasn't a problem. Even WFA's anchors reported that in the first hour of our coverage.
NASA said as late as Friday that the damage to those thermal tiles was believed to be minor at that time and posed no safety concern.
But it was catastrophic.
That's exactly what happened. There was a hole created by the impact, and that hole led to the destruction of the orbit.
I can see your camera. Okay.
Among the things recovered was some video from inside the orbiter of the astronauts as they prepared for re-entry. We found this C-SPAN video on YouTube.
on. It's really neat. It's a bright orange yellow out over the nose.
You see them going through their final checklist and looking outside the orbiter.
This is amazing. It's really getting really bright out there. Yep. Yeah, you definitely don't want to be outside now.
But minutes later, they would all perish. All of their remains were recovered in East Texas.
Every time human remains were recovered, they would pause everything and have a moment of silence.
What is incredible is that 2 decades later, pieces of the shuttle are still being found, a reminder of this tragic historical event that took place over the Texas sky. In Dallas, I'm Rebecca Lopez.
My fellow Americans, this day has brought terrible news and great sadness to our country. At 9 o'clock this morning, Mission Control in Houston lost contact with our Space Shuttle Columbia. A short time later, debris was seen falling from the skies above Texas. The Columbia is lost. There are no survivors. On board was a crew of 7. Colonel Rick Husband, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Anderson, Commander Laurel Clark, Captain David Brown, Commander William McCool, Dr. Kulpna Shavla, and Ilan Ramon, a colonel in the Israeli Air Force. These men and women assumed great risk in the service to all humanity. In an age when space flight has come to seem almost routine, it is easy to overlook the dangers of travel by rocket and the difficulties of navigating the fierce outer atmosphere of the Earth. These astronauts knew the dangers, and they faced them willingly, knowing they had a high and noble purpose in life. Because of their courage and daring and idealism, we will miss them all the more. All Americans today are thinking as well of the families of these men and women who have been given this sudden shock and grief. You're not alone. Our entire nation grieves with you. And those you loved will always have the respect and gratitude of this country. The cause in which they died will continue. Mankind is led into the darkness beyond our world by the inspiration of discovery and the longing to understand. Our journey into space will go on. In the skies today, we saw destruction and tragedy. Yet farther than we can see, there is comfort and hope. In the words of the prophet Isaiah, lift your eyes and look to the heavens. Who created all these? He who brings out the starry hosts one by one and calls them each by name. Because of his great power and mighty strength, not one of them is missing. The same Creator who names the stars also knows the names of the 7 souls we mourn today. The crew of the Shuttle Columbia did not return safely to Earth, yet we can pray that all are safely home. May God bless the grieving families, and may God continue to bless America.